Wake up with the news and information you can trust. Starting your day the right way with the Andy Griffin Show. This is News Radio 890, 92.5 KDXU.
Well, good morning to you. 9:08 on KDXU. I'm Andy Griffin. Thank you for tuning in. With me today is my good friend and very capable fill-in, Melody Finlinson. Hello.
Hi, so good to have you back.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sitting in the chair here and getting her done. I thought it would be appropriate, at least for the first few minutes, to talk about your experience as host of the Andy Griffin Show. Did you like it?
I enjoyed it. I mean, you have pretty big shoes to fill, literally and
literally, yes.
So it was a little nerve-wracking. I'm not going to lie, because the guests will kind of look back at you, and then it's your responsibility to keep it going.
Uh-huh.
And when I've already gone through all my questions, I'm like, uh-oh, what do I do now? I have to think on my feet really quickly.
Time to improvise.
Yes. Yeah. So it was a really cool experience. I've never done that per se. I mean, I've interviewed people like on the radio, but I can always pause and re-record.
Yeah.
So that's different than live. Stockton was amazing. He came and he filled in on the board ops, so I didn't have so many things that I had to worry
and that
about.
is a challenge. People that haven't done this, talking on the radio is hard enough, but then when you have to do all the technological stuff at the same time, that compounds the problems.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you didn't have to deal with that part of it.
Right. So it was fun. It was kind of fun to pick a couple of my own guests. You had some studies that came in, which was great to help fill in the schedule. But like I had this one guest. The first guest I had was Chris Weiler, and he was a former FLDS member that had been kicked out of the FLDS, and it was like his story, and then how he created Pecan Valley, which is a resort in Hurricane, like his full story. So that was interesting to me. So I hope other people enjoyed it. And then I had a couple of my friends on, and they told some of their things. So I don't know. I had a good time. I hope people liked it.
Did you have a favorite guest? Did you have one day where you're like, you know what, this is good stuff. I enjoyed this.
Okay, so I really enjoyed Marianne. I enjoyed all the guests. I don't want anybody to think I didn't enjoy them. But
right, no, understandable.
So Marianne was really easy to talk to, and she had so much information, and she was inspiring. I enjoyed that. And then I really enjoyed Mayor Crest Daly. It really flowed. And even Mayor Randall, it really just kind of flowed back and forth, and the time went by really quickly.
Nice.
So those were kind of and then I really just enjoyed listening to the first guest, Chris Weiler's story. Just everybody has so many stories to share, and I love kind of hearing about those and drawing the facts out and asking the questions I want to ask instead of having to wait for somebody to ask the question I want to ask. So
Nice.
I like that part of it too.
I got some positive feedback. I think it was your last day on staging a house to get it ready to sell.
Oh, that was Friday before last, yeah.
Oh, Friday before. Yeah, they said it was a really good show. Very fascinating
very nice. Show. Yeah, that was fun. And we talked about mental illness on that one too.
Okay.
And
are they related, staging a house and being mentally ill?
Well, yeah, I don't know. I could be classified as mentally ill for staging houses. Yes, that's true. But we kind of just did different topics, and that was like our first big topic. And then we I don't remember how we segued it. We did segue it in a way that made sense, but I can't remember now what it was.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah. So I don't know. It was fun. Yeah, Jennifer Polson was the one that was on then, and it was a good time.
Well, thank you so much again for filling in and just making it so I could go on vacation. Those that listen to this show know I haven't taken many vacations in 5 years because, quite frankly, I haven't had anybody I felt like I could trust for long-term days off. So
yeah. Well, how was your trip though? That's what I didn't get to hear about. Did you already talk about it?
Yeah. Well, just now, Gary Sorensen and I spent a lot of time talking about my trip. Some of the things that impressed me, the architecture, not just of, you got your cathedrals and castles, but everybody's houses they took so much pride in them. They were so beautiful. And I mean, their statues and the way they painted them and just everything about them. And I think as I thought about it, I'm like, well, we spend a lot of money on our yards, right? Lawnmowers and whatever, weed eaters and all that stuff. They don't really have yards there. They're just buildings and cobblestone streets. And so I think probably the money we spend on yards, maybe they spend on their homes. But yeah, I was so impressed. And a lot of these homes are 1,000 years old or 500 years old or whatever.
Right. Just the architecture, right? The detail.
So beautiful.
Not just slapped together for speed.
So beautiful. Yeah, I loved it. That was really cool. And I'm not, you know this, Mel, I'm not like an artsy-fartsy guy. Like I'm not going to go spend 4 hours in an art museum. I wonder what he meant by putting a banana in his ear. I don't know. That's not me.
Right.
But just it just impressed me so much. The pride and their cities were clean. You know, I went to Zurich and Amsterdam and Cologne and you don't see trash on the streets. They have, I know this is stupid, but they have, when you buy a plastic bottle of something, the you know how you twist off, you know, buy a bottle here, you twist it off. What do you do with the cap when you're done? Some people put it back on. Other people, well, their caps on their plastic bottles stay attached. They have like a little plastic piece. They stay attached, so you don't find little bottle caps anywhere. They're still part of the bottles.
That's a good idea. Smart water is like that.
Stupid little thing, but a little thing nonetheless that makes a difference. So
no, it does. It helps keep the cities cleaner and
I thought that was cool.
Nicer to be in. That's exciting. I'm so glad you guys got to go because I was a little nervous you weren't going to be able to make it. Yeah,
it was. When I got sick the few days before and was in the hospital, and the doctor said, "Well, you need 2 weeks of IVs to get over this." I was like, "Yeah, here's the thing. In 4 days, we're supposed to go to." Europe, and he's like, "Oh, that's a problem, isn't it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's a problem."
Jeez.
So, but hopefully, I stuck to their medicinal regimen, taking all the antibiotics they want me to take, and I had a blood test yesterday. The results come back today. Hopefully, everything's cool.
Yeah, well, that's good. That was quite a scare. I didn't even learn about that until I think the Mayor Randall was on it, and then I heard that you had been in the hospital. I hadn't heard before that.
Yeah, I didn't die. So.
Well, that's good.
Can't kill me that easy, by golly.
No, you're not allowed to die.
Anyway, boss poked his head in. Hi, boss. Bye, boss. Yeah. He could fire you or I at any moment. You know that, right?
But he won't.
Oh, he could. Did you fire that dude yesterday? No? Okay, good. I joke like, yeah, Bart, go fire somebody. It'll make you feel better. But he doesn't like firing people. Firing people sucks, man, because you're changing people's lives for making things difficult. So I'm glad you didn't fire him.
So have you ever been fired, Andy?
Oh yeah, I've been fired. Yeah, I have been fired. I got. There's a media group in town, and they shall remain nameless, but they're not the current media group I work for. I got called in one day. 3 days after back surgery. So I'm wearing this big old back brace. And the boss at the time, and he has since been fired, by the way, the boss by his own father. But the boss at the time had fired me while wearing a back brace, saying that I disobeyed his direct order, which I did not. I actually directly obeyed his direct order. And he basically lied and said, "I didn't tell you that."
Oh.
So that was one. I've been fired, I think, 3 or 4 times. A couple of times I got fired for things I said on the air.
Oh. I don't think you're a good host if you don't say something you're not supposed to,
yeah,
probably.
Well, you know, and especially in my years, and I still do sports. I'm doing a high school game tonight over at Snow Canyon. But if you're on the air long enough, you're going to say something that somebody's going to not like. And I did that a few times, and, you know, it's the way it is.
So you just pick yourself up and just find another job in broadcasting? It doesn't, like, put a black mark on your record? How does that work?
No, there's no record. There's no,
okay.
In fact, with a couple of my firings, I was rehired by the same group a week or two later, realizing they screwed up.
Oh.
You know, so one of the jobs I got fired from, I was doing color commentary for a local university, which shall remain nameless. And something I said, they didn't like it, and I worked for the radio station, but the contract was with the university, and the university went to the radio station and said, "You have to fire that guy." And so my company, instead of backing me, and it's two companies ago since our current ownership, instead of backing me up, they said, "All right, we'll fire the guy." They tried someone else in my place for about 2 weeks. It was a disaster. They hired me back within a couple of weeks. So.
Well, there you go. You know your worth.
Yeah, nothing like being fired. It's humbling. But at the same time, it's vindicating when they hire you back or when you were right. So
right, exactly.
This is an interesting tidbit came across the wire today, and I want to get your opinion on this, Mello, and I'll offer my opinion as well. I'm going to play a little sound bite. Apparently, women in the U.S. have the lowest life expectancy among most industrialized countries. Check this out.
That's according to nonprofit group the Commonwealth Fund. It used provisional data from the CDC to calculate that American women in 2022 have a life expectancy of 80. That's 2 years shorter than the life expectancy of the nation with the next lowest, the United Kingdom, and 7 years shorter than in Korea and Japan, which have the highest expectancies. I'm Brian Shook.
All right, let's think about this. So the average life expectancy for a woman, we're just talking women now, is 80 in the United States. It's 87 in Japan and 82 in Great Britain, which is the next lowest one after us. My brother's been to Japan. I know a lot of Japanese people. I've been to Europe. They smoke a lot in those countries. They do. Men, women, whatever. There's a lot of cigarettes. I don't know if they didn't get the memo, by the way, smoking kills, whatever, but they smoke a lot. And so in my mind, I'm like, they have to be lower than us, right? Because they're all smoking. And we know smoking causes lung cancer kills. But to find out then on this study that came across the wire today that our life expectancy is lower was a little bit shocking to me. Well, your thoughts, Mela? Why? Why is our life expectancy for women lower?
I think probably diet, the American diet.
Uh-oh.
I think it's probably diet. And then I don't know, with men and working, that is what they used to think caused men to die sooner, was because they were working so much longer in their lives, like hardworking. And now women have kind of filled in that role. So it could be like twofold, the diet and like not being home and staying home and not working outside the home. Those are the only two things I can think of. But the diet for sure, because Japanese have a much healthier diet with lots more vegetables and rice and grains and things like that.
Fish, a lot of fish, yeah. I spent 3 days in Amsterdam on the first part of our trip, and their number one mode of transportation by far was bicycle. Men, women, whatever, getting around town. So they had these weird looking bikes that had like a front compartment. Then they would put their kids, the moms would put their kids in the front compartment of the bike, and they even made rules to the set because they want to encourage this, that bikes always have the right of way over pedestrians, over cars, over trains, over everything. Bikes always have the right of way. And so I think the fact that they have integrated bicycle travel as a big part of who they are, I think maybe that's part of it.
Right, their exercise.
Yeah, they're out. I mean, you didn't see, I don't want to offend anybody, but you didn't see fat people. Not none, but very few overweight people in Amsterdam.
Yeah.
So that's got to be part of it. Diet, I think you're right. We've done study after study about wine and whether or not that's good for you or not to have like one little wine with dinner. And the most recent study said actually no, for senior women, that's actually a bad thing. But how do you explain then that a lot of those life expectancies are people who drink wine every meal? Right.
And we drink soda. Like there's a difference between soda and wine. Baby.
Big time.
Yeah, I don't know. That's really interesting. I'd like to know, like, what it's changed, like the longitudinal study, like what it used to be 50 years ago, versus what it is now, to kind of gauge how much it's worsened.
I will say this. I do remember when I was a young man, maybe 18, the life expectancy for men was 67 and women 70. So we have definitely gone up 10 years with, and I would attribute that probably mostly to advances in medical technology.
I agree with that. Yeah. It's got to be the medical care to keep you alive longer. It doesn't mean your quality of life is better.
That's true.
Per se. If you're not super healthy and you're artificially healthy with machines. I don't know. That doesn't sound like fun to me either.
It's just a weird little anomaly in the news about U.S. women's life expectancy being that much lower than the rest of the world. It's just strange to me.
Yeah, it's not. It's not fun as I'm getting older to hear that.
You're in your 40s.
Yes.
We won't get any more specific than that. But that means that you will have you've already lived more than half your life.
You know, I was thinking about that the other day, literally. I was like, wow, that means I've lived more than I have left to live.
Ooh, ouch. Don't look at it that way. That's terrible.
No, I know. But literally, I have lived the majority of my life. So I only have probably another 30, maybe 40 years left.
Well, and if you think about it, as far as your career, maybe 20 years, right? 15, 20 years. Because once you get into your 60s, you're probably not going to be working a whole lot. Hopefully. That's the plan, right?
I don't know. My dad worked till he was about 80.
Oh, did he? Mm-hmm. Really? Mm-hmm. I did not know that.
Yeah.
I've met your dad a couple times. Great guy. Mm-hmm. Dry sense of humor. I love it.
Dry, yeah.
What did he do till his 80s?
He was real estate agent.
Okay.
So he did that, and then he was actually planning on retiring that January, and my mom passed away in November.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it was kind of bittersweet.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, he worked. He didn't work a ton, like in the last 10 years.
So it was semi-retired.
It was I think it was enough that my mom had him out of the house for a little bit, so she had some peace.
Oh man! Speaking of houses, in Europe, we were talking about property values, and they rent out 80 square foot apartments. 80 square foot apartments for $1,300 a month in Amsterdam, in the city.
Really?
80 square. Think about 80 square feet.
That's a bed.
This room is bigger that I'm in is bigger than 80 square feet.
That's really wild.
Yeah. And they said if you want, and it's funny because we always talk about 6 bedrooms and 2 baths or whatever. Here in Europe, they always said, if you want a 6-room house. I'm like, wait, 6-bedroom house? No, 6-room house. I'm like, wait a minute, 6-room house? That means if you go kitchen, bathroom, dining room, that's half the. Wow, that's not a very big house. They were like, you can get a 6-room house for about $600,000 in Amsterdam. I'm like, not 6-bedroom, 6-room. Okay.
Wow, I wonder what the draw is. That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is it beautiful? Beautiful?
The one thing they said about it is that families tend to, when they get a home, stay in it for generations. And so the old supply and demand, right? If there's no supply, then the price goes up. And so when these families get a house and they've lived in it for, and I'm not even kidding about this, 10 generations or 20 generations, or hundreds of years, and they don't sell, well, if there's nothing to buy, then the price is going to go way up. So, and this is your area of expertise, that whole real estate thing. But imagine, we even asked one of our guides, are there real estate agents in Europe? And they said, we have a few, but people don't sell a whole lot here. People hang on to what they got.
That's so interesting because I do sell houses for a living, but I am trying to make my home I live in, I want it to be generational. So I am updating it and doing things that I think will be good for the next generation. And I hope it stays in my family. I hope that like my kids and my grandkids and their grandkids can all have this house.
But that's unusual for the United States, I think. I mean, I've lived, I've been married almost 36 years. We've lived in 10, 11 different places. We've owned 3 or 4 different homes. Why? I don't know why. Sometimes it was to move to be closer to a job. A couple of them were to change jobs, but even within the greater St. George area, and I'm including Washington and Hurricane and, Ivins and Santa Clara, and we've had like 4 different homes just in this, maybe 5 just in this area. Yeah.
Well, I think part of it for me comes from having been a military spouse for almost 20 years. And so over the last 30 years, I've moved over 20 times.
Wow.
And so this is the first time I was able to officially put down my own roots. I bought this house when I was a single woman. And so it has a lot of emotional ties.
So your husband's living in your house?
Technically,
kind of, yeah.
Yes. Well, he wanted, so here's the story. He wanted me to, we were dating, and we've been dating for about 2 years, and he wanted me to buy a house in St. George, because that's where his family all lives, but my parents lived in Santa Clara. And so I was looking at a house, and it was in Santa Clara, and he said, I think you should buy a house in St. George. I said, well, you're my boyfriend, so you don't get a vote. And so, so I bought the house before we got married, because then I I could buy the house like by my parents. It was right by the kids' schools. They could all walk to their schools. So it just made sense for us. For me.
You win.
I didn't mean to win, but I did win.
You should have won. It was your choice.
It was my choice, and
now you live in Santa Clara.
And now I get to live in Santa Clara, and I love Santa Clara. I love St. George too, but I love living in Santa Clara.
How far from your dad do you live?
I live less than 5 minutes.
Less than 5 minutes. I like that. Yeah,
so it's really close. I go check on him every night. He just had eye surgery, so I've been popping in and like getting dinner in the microwave for him and making sure he's taken care of.
Baking something in the microwave.
Well, it's something I made on Sunday, so then I'm reheating it for him. So yeah, that's exactly right.
You know, people give leftovers a bad name. People are always dogging on leftovers. If the meal was really good the first time, there's a pretty good chance it's going to be a pretty good leftover.
Oh, my goodness.
I don't have a problem at all with leftovers.
Okay, I made the best leftovers yesterday.
Yeah?
So, I don't know if you've ever made your own. Do we have time?
You have 1 minute.
Okay, I made Chick-fil-A biscuits and chicken. And you marinate the chicken in pickle juice?
Really?
You marinate the chicken in pickle juice.
That's how Chick-fil-A does it?
That's what the recipe online says.
Really?
And then I dredged it in flour, then egg, and then the breadcrumbs. And then I fried them up, and I put them in my little homemade biscuit. And I bought some Chick-fil-A sauce, and they were amazing. And
Did it taste like Chick-fil-A?
Yes, it tasted better than Chick-fil-A.
Did you fry it in peanut oil? Because they use peanut oil.
I didn't have peanut oil.
All right.
I actually tried the air fryer first, and I failed. I think I needed parchment paper. But I'm going to learn it. I'm figuring it out. It's amazing. I love having a kitchen again.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A has found a formula, and I think even though you did a good job of doing it at home, I think that they're always going to be people aren't going to be as ambitious as you to make it at home. They want to go to Chick-fil-A and get that, whatever they do to the chicken, marinade in pickle juice, whatever it is, people want that chicken.
Oh, it was really so delicious. And then like homemade biscuits. It's pretty much a baking powder biscuit recipe, but I got it offline and it says it's just like Chick-fil-A's and it tasted really good.
All right, we got to get a break in here. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about the security breach out there, which is being bizarrely underplayed, and yet it shouldn't be. This is a big deal. We'll talk about that a little bit. We'll also talk about a presidential candidate who says that she's going to do price fixing. She's going to make it so that, well, it's basically anti-capitalism, this presidential nominee who is currently the vice president of the country. And in the history of the world, price fixing by the government has worked how many times?
0.
Oh, yeah, that would be 0. Not at all. What you end up doing is prices end up going up because government is controlling how much there is. It's a bad thing.
Have you heard of her new nickname?
Kamalama Ding Dong?
No.
That one?
Skamala.
Skamala. Yeah, that works too. We will be right back. We'll talk about that when we come back.
Wake up with the news and information you can trust. This is the Andy Griffin Show on News Radio 890, 92.5 KDXU, Southern Utah's News Talk leader.
Welcome back, 9:35 on KDXU. Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to leave Mello's mic down for a minute because we're going to give something away. I want her to answer the phones for a couple of minutes. We're giving away a $20 gift card to Benja's Thai Garden. Yeah, you can get some sushi. I'm not a sushi guy, but you can get a sushi or maybe some pineapple fried rice, some St. George fried, whatever it is. The phone number is 673-5890. If you would like a $20 gift card to Benja's Thai, 673-5890. We'll take caller number 3. I know a lot of folks listen online. They're like, wait, that's not fair because I did, it was 30 seconds behind or whatever. But, yeah, we do have something to give away. I'm going to start giving away something I think every day for a while. Just for fun, start giving away some Wendy's and some pizza and some Benjas, and I even have some tickets, 2-a-con tickets I'm going to give away here in a few days. And, yeah, I want to reward you, the listener, for tuning in to the Andy Griffin Show. Thanks so much again to all the friends I made on my trip to Europe, and some of them I don't know if you got to hear it on Monday's show. Ralph Lee, I got to hear Ralph Lee's story. Ralph was, if you remember, if you've lived here 6 years or more, you'll remember that the owner of Lee's Dry Cleaning was assaulted and was basically murdered, but he didn't die. And was very fortunate that he didn't bleed out. And They have caught and convicted the guy that did it, and he actually came up for parole, but it's kind of one of those mandatory, you got to come up for parole every 4 years or whatever it is, but he was denied parole. He'll be in for a long time, but thanks again to Ralph for coming on the program. Ralph and his wife Carmen were guests with me on the Alma Waterways cruise in Europe, and I got to know them. It was very, very cool. A lot of great people got to know. Jerry and Suzette became good friends of ours during the trip. My brother and his wife were with us, and I would leave people out if I tried to name everyone. So I'm just going to say thanks to all those that we were able to make friends and share memories with on the trip to Europe. Now, my thing is not refreshing here on the screen, so I'm going to just read a couple of things. This one I think is a big deal, right? And I think it's being underplayed, and I'm not sure why, but I don't think it should be underplayed, and so that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk about it. I'm going to read this straight off the wire. All, A-L-L, all American Social Security information has been compromised. Reports say hackers stole data from the National Public Data Source and tried to sell it. When no one would buy it, they went ahead and posted it online for free. The group claims to have nearly 3 billion records of personal data from North America and the United Kingdom. Experts say the best course of action is to freeze your credit files and prevent others from signing up for credit cards or other accounts in your name. If they have your credit card number, they could open accounts, they could get a loan, they could do all kinds of stuff in your name. And so that Social Security number is out there. And Mello, that's a bad thing, and I don't understand why it's not bigger news, why it doesn't lead every newscast in the nation today.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know that my daughter, she's 21, and she just received a notice from Chase Bank that thank you for opening a new card, and she has not even tried to open a card.
Bad news.
So we had to go ahead and do that. And I was talking to my daughter, and her husband actually does freeze their credit. And I've never actually done that, but I think that is a wise thing to do, just to go ahead and freeze it. And then when you want to pull your credit, if you're buying a house or getting a loan, then you can unfreeze it for that purpose and then refreeze it.
A good idea.
So I think I will ask them how to do that. I've never frozen it. I have no idea how to do that.
I was talking with my sister and her husband yesterday. They got a notice from the IRS that said they owed money and that they hadn't paid their taxes. They did pay their taxes. And so they think someone took their Social Security number and filed a false tax return, got some money back from the government, and now the IRS wants them to pay that money back. They said you cashed a $7,000 check, and my brother-in-law was like, no, we did not do that. In fact, I have all the records, and went and showed. He basically went into the office and showed him all the records and said this didn't happen, and they said, oh, we'll put an investigator on that right now.
Yeah,
so.
I actually 3 years ago had I went to file my tax returns, and I had filed for an extension, so I was filing them late. And when I actually filed them, they said that I had already filed my taxes. And so I was like, wait, no, I didn't file my taxes. So they did have to open an investigation. And it turns out my accountant's office had been hacked. And so my information had been compromised that way. So that's kind of unnerving that they have all of your tax information and can file a return. It's hard enough to file a return. I can't imagine doing it on purpose for somebody else.
Everything that we know is built on a house of cards, I like to say, and if one or two cards get pulled out, the whole thing could come down, and that's scary. And if you think about it, everything that we do, I mean, you know, I don't even get a paycheck anymore. I get money, but it goes straight to my. It's kind of, my son likes to call it pretend money. I don't actually see any money. It goes straight from the corporation I work for to my bank account, and then guess what? Our house payment automatically is taken out. Our car payment is automatically taken. It's a very strange world that we live in, and a little bit scary.
I know. I really do like to try and have some cash because, you know, I like to circumvent the forced tipping. But some places won't even take my cash, and it's really frustrating. I'm like, and that you'll see a sign that says cash is no longer accepted. And I can see why, because then they're not subjected to being robbed, right? You're not going to go and steal a bunch of credit card receipts.
That's true.
So it's just kind of scary where everything's heading.
Scary is the right word for it.
Right, because I do like to have cash.
I agree. I think it's good to have. I have a little bit of cash in my wallet, but not a lot, but enough that if I needed to buy a dinner or something, I could do that and not have to pull out the credit card. Europe was interesting because most places took Visa. I know a guy had a MasterCard. They don't take MasterCard in Europe for the most part. 99% no thanks. American Express was it was a hit. It was probably 50% on American Express, but almost everyone I came across took Visa, which is a good thing. But we did have to we got some euros in cash. And Europe is funny because the European Union means that like Germany and France and the Netherlands and a lot of countries, they now have opened their borders. So there were a couple of times where we docked in Germany and went to France or vice versa, and I had no idea we'd gone over a border. There were no signs. There was no. I had no idea. And with the Europe, you don't have to show a passport. You don't have to. Now, there are a couple of countries that decided not to be a part of that. Switzerland is not part of the European Union. They take francs. They don't take euros. England, it was much publicized, the Brexit thing. England was in the European Union. Now they are out. They only work off of English money, British money now.
That's interesting. Do they take Apple Pay?
Yes, but the weird thing about that, and I paid a couple of times I paid for in Switzerland with my credit card, and they say, how do you want to pay? And you pick francs or you pick dollars. Well, the problem is a U.S. dollar is a franc is worth $1.16. So you might go and say, hey, I got a T-shirt for $15. Yeah, well, if you add on the extra 16 cents a dollar, all of a sudden your $15 shirt's a $20 shirt, or your $25 shirt's a $32 shirt, et cetera, et cetera. So it was kind of tricky. There were a couple of times like, hey, we got a really good deal on this. And then the credit card came across, translated into dollars. I'm like, I guess that wasn't that good a deal.
No, not as good of a deal. I don't know. I have been using my Apple Pay more just with my phone because I can just go to the grocery store and I can double click right on my phone.
That's cool.
And I have my Apple Pay set up to it. And I actually did get one of those Apple credit cards because it was titanium and it looked really, really cool.
It's very cool.
So I wanted to have it. But the cool thing about the Apple credit card is there's no number on it. It's digital. So they can issue a new number if anything is
with the same card. You can have a new
with the
number.
same card. So you get a different number and you don't ever have it, but if you need to access it, there's a way you can access it if you're paying online with it.
I didn't see anything say Apple Pay while I was in Europe. So I don't know that would work there. You probably have to have a Visa card.
Got you.
So
it's just so nice not to have to carry all the cards and all this stuff.
One of the other things I noticed in Europe was if you walk around the streets of anywhere in the United States, you're going to see people in their phones, sometimes walking into traffic or doing stupid stuff. There was not a lot of that in Europe. I mean, there were a few. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying it was not prevalent. People were engaged in what they were doing instead of engaged in their phone, which was kind of refreshing.
I know. It kind of reminds me of when people talk about a zombie apocalypse coming. If the zombie apocalypse isn't everybody just staring at their phones, watching their phones, and then walking around like that.
It's true. We got to get a break in. I wanted to talk, and we will talk a little bit about this whole price. Kamala Harris has announced that she will, when on her first day in office, which she's been in office for 3.5 years, folks. But she said on the first day in office, she will enact a price control system and tell grocery stores like Kroger, the biggest grocery retailer in America, you can only charge X amount of money for a loaf of bread or X amount of money for a piece of meat or X amount of money for lemons or whatever.
And that's
this price control by the government is a communist what's the word I'm looking for? It's something the communists did, and it didn't work. It failed miserably. Every time it's been instituted in any country in the world, including Venezuela, North Korea, China, and the former Soviet Union, it has failed miserably because you cannot tell a retailer how much they can charge for something. It doesn't work.
No, it's a terrible idea.
And Kamala Harris is trying to do that. And she said she's going to do that. And she's going to eliminate private health insurance and she wants a surgeon and a street sweeper to make exactly the same amount of money.
There's no incentive then.
It's communism. Yeah. And that's what Kamala Harris, and I know someone I met someone on the trip who's a big Kamala Harris backer, and I'm trying to figure out how to explain to this person, because people put their fences up and they won't listen to you. Explain to her that, do you understand that Kamala Harris wants to turn America into a socialist country? Do you understand that? But I don't know how to get, once their fences go up, they don't listen.
No, it's hard to tell anybody that.
All right, let's get a break in. More on the Andy Griffin Show. Mello's hanging out with me today. We'll be right back.
All the latest news, weather, traffic, and sports, just like you like them. You're waking up with the Andy Griffin Show on News Radio 890, 92.5 KDXU, Southern Utah's news talk leader.
Time flies when you're having fun in here on the Andy Griffin Show. Next week, Washington County Commissioners will be on. Now, it's interesting. I was online yesterday reading some stuff, and I came across this post in social media about how corrupt, dishonest, and I forget the other words he used, our county commissioners were. And I was like, what are they talking about? And again, I've said this many times on this show, and Mello, you know this, I'm going to trust somebody until they give me a reason not to. And Gil Almquist, Victor Iverson, and Adam Snow have never given me a reason not to trust them. And so I'm going to keep trusting them until I find a reason not to. And the same with Zach Renstrom from the Water Conservancy District and our mayors. I mean, I'm going to, and maybe I'm naive, maybe I'm stupid, but I'm going to trust people until they burn me. And if they burn me, I'll never trust them again. But until then, I trust them. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No, I think we've got great leaders right now in our community.
I agree. All right, a couple of things just hit the wire just moments ago. First of all, this one, you're going to enjoy this. A new analysis shows that mothers can miss out on over $500,000 in earnings across a 30-year career. Bankrate found that women who are mothers earn 31% less wages than fathers did in 2023. That added up to the significant figure across an entire career, assuming wages are the same. Research shows that while women who are single with no children are the closest to earning the same level as men, they still start out earning less, and the gap widens if they get married. It also talks about, I'm not going to read any more of it, but it talks about women who stay home and take care of their children, obviously aren't earning money while they're doing that, and the amount of money they could make for all the things, I think we've all seen the list. Babysitter costs this much, and a taxi service costs this much, et cetera, et cetera. I hope people understand that. I have incredible respect for women, and I think if it's possible for you to be at home with your children when they're young, you should. If it's not possible, I understand that too. My mom worked. I turned out okay, My wife worked. We had a unique situation in our family, Mello, in that I was Mr. Mom for 15 years. My wife worked during the day. I worked nights and weekends, but during the day I was the guy changing diapers, taking care of the kids, attending meetings, doing whatever it is that needed to be done, cleaning, doing laundry, etc. That's just the way our family was, and I have no regrets. I think it worked out great. I loved it.
Yeah, I think as long as there's a parent or a grandparent or somebody that loves the child as much as you do, that's great.
And that was our big thing. We did not want our children in daycare. We did not want our children with someone that didn't love them like we did. So it was always important that we were there. One of us was there with them. And that meant, unfortunately, we had to split up a lot of times, my wife and I. We didn't see each other as much when the kids were little, but we made it work.
Yeah, no, what I did is I was a stay-at-home mom for 20 years. And then I got divorced, and then I went back to school, and I got my degree, and I started working. And then I remarried, and I had a son. And then I was still working, and it wasn't really an option for me to stay home. And that was a really hard choice for me because I really wanted to stay home. So I ended up putting him in daycare. But one of my petty goals, I don't mean to be petty, but sometimes with my ex-husband I was petty, just because of everything I went through with that marriage, is I wanted to prove to myself that even though I've only been in the workforce for 5 or 6 years, that I could make as much money as him.
Ooh, really?
Yeah. So I did.
You did.
I did.
You are.
I did. And then I made sure that I told him that I did.
No pettiness here. No, move along. Nothing to see.
Yeah. And then he said, I always told you I was holding you back. And I said, well, I never believed it until now.
That's true.
So anyway, just petty 101, and then I'm kind of moving past that. I don't do that stuff anymore.
There is speaking of that, there is a fantastic story online, and I'm going to see if I can find it, because it was kind of on the back burner. I wasn't really going to talk about it today, but I do want to mention it.
I did one other petty thing if you want to hear one other
Okay,
story.
in a second. Let me make my point here. The story is about that we don't give ourselves enough credit. We are harder. The title of the story is "We're Better Than We Think We Are." I just found it. It's on freemansperspective.com. And it said the problem with most humans is not that they think too highly of themselves. Rather, it's that they think too little of themselves. They exhibit what G.K. Chesterton called a weird and horrible humility. To put it bluntly, we've been trained to perpetually self-accuse. Isn't that true?
That's so interesting and kind of true, yeah. Because you don't give yourself enough credit, but you want to be everybody else's cheerleader. So why aren't you your own cheerleader?
Yeah, and we don't. Instead, we're like, yeah, you go. You're great. You're awesome. I suck. You know?
Right. I can't do that. How could I possibly do that?
Yeah. I think we all do that.
Right. And it also comes back to like what you've been told throughout your whole life or your whole marriage.
That's
like,
true.
You could never do that. I don't think you could do that. That would be way too hard for you to do that. And then to actually not have that voice in the back of your head anymore, and then be able to go ahead and push through and say, you know what, I can do that. I can do that. I can do hard things. And then just kind of give yourself your own pat on the back.
Another quote from the story, human history is a record of the ways in which human nature has been sold short. The highest possibilities of human nature have practically always been underrated. There runs a strange law through the length of human history that men are continually tending to undervalue their environment, to undervalue their happiness, to undervalue themselves. The great sin of mankind, the sin typified by the fall of Adam, is a tendency not towards pride, but toward this weird and horrible humility. Now, I'm all for humility, and you know, religiously you get taught to be humble, but I think somewhere we cross that line of being humble and being negative, being hard on ourselves, not.
Yeah, and it can start pretty young too. Like I've noticed it in my 7-year-old. Like when he was like 4 or 5, he fell and he broke his arm, and he was in a lot of pain, and he's like, I can do it. I'm okay. Like he was like positively self-talking compared to like 3 years later, he's like, oh, I'm stupid. I can't read. I suck. I'm not good at this. So just in just a couple of years, even you can lose that little light.
I had one of my sons, my middle son, didn't think he was very smart. But looking at him from the outside, you could see he was a very intelligent young man. But early on, somebody told him he wasn't smart. I don't know if it was a teacher or one of his friends or whatever. They called him stupid. And he believed that. And for a long time, he's like, I can't do that because I'm not smart enough to do that. And those of us looking in were like, dude, you totally could. Why that attitude? Why do you feel that way? It's just,
right.
It's crazy.
And I think sometimes people fit into roles that they're assigned. Because, I mean, when I was growing up, I was kind of like the bubbly airhead, and I would, like, pretend to be dumb because that's what people I felt expected of me to do. And so I think sometimes you have to kind of break free from that role that you've either self-assigned or been told you are to kind of break out of that mold.
It's true. I was a dumb jock back in the day. Well, I wasn't a dumb jock, but everybody told me I was.
Right, because you were big and strong.
Yeah, it was hard to get over. Oh, you're a football player, you must be an idiot. No, it wasn't true. I hated that. But one last story. We got 30 seconds here. A record 8.5. This is on the wire. A record 8.5% of homes in the U.S. are worth $1 million or more. That's according to real estate company Redfin. It attributes record home prices with a housing supply shortage. But if for the first time in American history, over 8% of homes are worth $1 million or more in our country.
The median price here is $620,000.
It's crazy. That is crazy. How are our kids supposed to buy a house? We're out of time. Mello, thank you for everything you've done. Really appreciate you.
Thank you for letting me be here.